Well, welcome back to the Tailgate Nate College Football Show. It is Victory Monday for those that watch the NFL and celebrate. And when you're a team, or I should say, when you're a fan of a team like the Cleveland Browns, you got to be able to rep your team on Victory Monday. So that's exactly what I'm doing with a lovely Christmas gift. Thank you, family. I believe cousin Chelsea, I have you to thank for this Christmas gift. I hope I didn't forget that already. That would be bad already early on Christmas. Welcome to the Tailgate Nate College Football Live. Tailgate Nate is live today. My name is Nate Bope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. I'm a sports media graduate with a massive passion for everything that goes on in the sports media industry, in the world of sports, but that especially includes the world of college football. And if you want to support everything I'm doing here on the channel, well, everything is down below on the banner for you. Hit the subscribe button and interact with the channel any way you can. Like, comment, share, all the good things. And follow me on social media at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever else you like to peruse through the social medias. Show today, we're going to be going through the college football playoff quarterfinal matchups, and we are also going to be talking about Kyle Whittingham to Michigan. We will be later on grading head coaching hires as the coaching carousel has been crazy. We all know it has, and I've missed a lot, so we are going to grade coaching hires, but I'm not missing this one, and it warrants a lot of discussion because of what has happened within the university lately. So, for those of you ready to get going, hey, tell me how your holiday season was as we wait to kick things started with a little small talk as per usual. It's also important that you stay hydrated and keep drinking water, especially when it is as dry outside as it is over here. Cold, dry, windy. It is not too great of weather. Hopefully the weather is better wherever you may be watching this from. But I hope everyone's holiday season was good. Again, full show today. We're going to be going through predicting all the college football playoff matchups and then Kyle Whittingham to Michigan. We will get clips posted from this live stream and last live stream as well. So jam-packed day coming out on the Tailgate Nate College Football channel. Obviously spent the holidays with family, so we are going to unpack here and be able to get out all the content that I would like to get out for you fine people as the college football playoff quarterfinals start very, very soon. Actually, very, very soon. So we'll wait for some more people to dive on in to the stream before we get going. So I'm going to go check on something actually. So give me one moment and I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go make sure that something was off. I don't necessarily want my apartment to be ill-well, so. All right, again, I hope everyone had a great holiday season. I hope everyone is having a great Monday as well, by the way. I hope everybody has enjoyed their holiday season. And I hope you all got to enjoy the college football playoff first-round matchups. We have already reacted to those. Again, clips will be out here later on after this live stream. They will be out probably tomorrow, as well a lot of the clips from this live stream as well. So, I mean, just a jam-packed day on the Tailgate Nate College Football channel. We're going to be cranking out the content tomorrow and possibly even tonight. Might see some stuff here tonight. So, going to try to keep this to a little bit of a shorter show just so I can get some content out and generally prep some more things for New Year's Day and the holiday season for all of you and for myself as well. But I think we waste no more time here, shall we? I think we just go ahead and dive on in. So we have already reacted to the first round of the college football playoff. And in case you missed that, again, clips will be out later. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. But Miami getting the better of Texas A&M, 10-3. First game was, again, Alabama coming back, beating Oklahoma. You had Oregon and Ole Miss beating their group of 5 opponents here pretty soundly. But where we are going to start things off, we are going to go in chronological order of the CFP. So we are going to go down the line in order of happen, and there is only one game that is taking place on New Year's Eve. That is where we are going to start with Ohio State and Miami, and we will move down the line as games will appear on your television screen. I hope that sounds good to everybody. I think let's just dive on in and do it. We start out our college football playoff quarterfinal predictions with Miami, Ohio State. The only game that's going to be taking place on New Year's Eve. It's in Dallas. It's the Cotton Bowl Classic. The Buckeyes basically live in Dallas now. I'm pretty sure they have a second campus down there by this point. We all remember what happened in Dallas last year with this Buckeye team, and now they get a chance to rematch they get a chance to get the rematch against Miami, right? And more so, Miami gets the chance to rematch Ohio State. Those of you that are way older than me will probably remember a lot better than me what happened in the 2003 national championship game. That's not to say that I don't remember. I do, but again, those of you out there may remember a little bit better than me. This was a game that is still very controversial, and I know a lot of Miami fans have not forgotten what has happened in this game. You had the late pass interference penalty that moved everything forward, right? And then Ohio State was able to obviously go win the national championship in double overtime. Still one of the classic games in college football history, but this one here is going to be a big one, right? Ohio State, Miami, these two teams have got some history. Miami has, again, still not forgotten what has happened. But when you start to take a look at the way that this game is going to play out, right? The Buckeyes, you have to trust your eyes, right? I think when you get into the postseason, a lot of people can overthink things. Now, I am definitely one of those people. I can overthink the crap out of things. However, trusting what your eyes have seen would tell you that Ohio State's been the best team all season long. And I know that Indiana beat them in the Big Ten championship game. Almost said Big 12. The Big Ten championship game. This is still a Buckeye team that is just loaded. Julian Sayin at quarterback. Bo Jackson's really emerging at running back. You got Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate in the wide receiver group. And this offense is loaded so much to the point where their X factor in this game are the big plays that they can generate here. This is a Miami defense that can be susceptible to that, but I also believe that if the Buckeyes are going to be ripping off some of these big plays in this game, then I don't know that Miami's got that offensive firepower necessary to be able to come back. Sure, Carson Beck has got some weapons we'll talk about in a little bit, but I mean, this secondary's got some really good pieces. Do we really think they're going to be able to fully lock down Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate? I think they can have their moments, much like Indiana did in that Big Ten championship game. But the big plays that the Buckeyes can generate, especially through the air, hitting these passes from Sayin over the top to Smith, to Tate, even if they want to try to rip the seam with Max Clare. I know they have not done it that much this season, but it is something that is well built into this offense, and they just need the right moment to be able to exploit it and to show it, right? Ripping the seam with Max Clare. Bo Jackson has been able to generate some big plays on the ground, and that's where the Buckeyes have been not necessarily susceptible, but that's been a weakness of their game. They have not been able to generate those big plays on the ground. Well, if they can get those big plays on the ground, if Bo Jackson can get going, and this is a Buckeye team that's going to be ripping off these big chunk plays, have fun with this Miami team keeping up. But there is one facet to which this Miami defense can keep up, and it is the X factor. It's this pass rush. The Buckeye offensive line did not play good in that Big Ten championship game. They just didn't, right? Well, I think we can all come out and say it. They didn't. Tegra Shabola, he's looking questionable. I doubt that even if he is healthy, he plays in this game because he was not good in the Big Ten championship game. The Buckeyes have had some positions on the offensive line, mainly the right guard, that have been a revolving door of sorts this year, and it has led to some chaos and some very, very bad moments at times. Well, guys, this is a Miami defensive front that knows how to wreak havoc. And you're looking at the two guys right here on screen, Akeem Mesidor, Ruben Bain. Those guys are wrecking balls, and they're the two sack leaders on this defense. 8.5 for Mesidor, 7.5 for Bain. Now, what is a little bit different about this pass rush compared to what Ohio State faced against Indiana, because Indiana was able to generate pressure against this Buckeye team. I mean, it's what Indiana's been doing really all season long, but Indiana got 5 sacks and 9 tackles for loss on this Buckeye team, who really has had solid offensive line play pretty much all year. This is a Miami team that can do something very similar to what Indiana did against the Buckeyes. They can create this pressure. They can create these matchup nightmares, right? If I'm a Buckeye offensive lineman, I would quarrel in fear to see either Bain, either Mesidor. They got some other really good players there to line up across from them. Ahmad Moten is definitely one there as well. Just guys that can beat you and just go win those matchups, right? They win the one-on-ones. But where I was getting at was that's exactly what Miami's going to run. They're going to run a lot more of these one-on-ones. They're not going to run as many stunts and switches as Indiana was running in the Big Ten championship game. This is going to be a game where Miami, look, they have really simplified this pass rush under Corey Heatherman. Granted, it has led to a lot more success, but they're just featuring their players. They're not doing anything fancy. They are simply letting a Myles Garrett type player, and that's not to make a comparison, right, between Mesidor, Bain, and the defensive player of the year in the NFL this season. But it is to show how the system works. They let their players play. They let their guys shine. They don't need to do anything fancy to let their players get their production. And that's something that I think you're going to see here in this game. Now, if the Buckeye offensive line is not sharp, that's where things get interesting here. If Julian Sain does not have time to throw, and Julian Sain does not have time to hit these deep routes to Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, some of these routes that take just a hair longer to develop, and Julian Sain is on the ground, I mean, you saw the impact that Indiana made in the Big Ten championship game. Getting Julian Sain and this Buckeye offense as a whole out of rhythm is absolutely the game plan that you need to be able to slow this team down. If Julian Sain cannot stay in rhythm, and this offensive line is going to be Swiss cheese again in this game, I think this Miami defense can feast. And again, I talked about some of these guys here in the secondary. Jacoby Thomas, he's been fantastic. Keontae Scott, they got him back healthy, ready to go in the Texas A&M game, and he was great. He's going to be a big factor here. He's also got 5 sacks on the season, so another guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. They can fly from everywhere on this Miami team. Now, I haven't talked about the other side of the ball yet, and that's because I think it's where you start to see this thing really lean towards the Buckeyes here. Carson Beck has played in big games before, and when you take a look at what he did against Texas A&M, again, if I said it on the last show last Monday, if you told Texas A&M that Carson Beck was going to go checks notes 14 of 20 for 103 yards, a touchdown, and no picks, sure, he was mistake-free, but Texas A&M is probably still asking, okay, how much did we win by? Carson Beck cannot afford to have a performance like that again, in the sense of you cannot throw for 103 yards in Miami to win this football game. Carson Beck has got to show up, and he's got to start utilizing some of these wide receivers that he's got. C.J. Daniels has been fantastic. Malachi Toney is a really good freshman. Keelan Marion, you got to be able to start utilizing him as well. But another X factor here is Mark Fletcher. 17 carries, 172 yards in that game against Texas A&M. And if it was more high scoring, that's probably a game that you also see him go for 2 or 3 touchdowns. Not the case. He just happened to have a really good day. But he's also a really good tailback. This is a Buckeye defensive front that is nowhere near as star-studded as what they had last year, but Kenyatta Jackson in the middle is fantastic. Caden Curry on the edge has formed himself into a star, and even if you get past the front level, good luck trying to get through Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, some of these other linebackers that the Buckeyes have got. I just don't see Mark Fletcher having as productive of a day as he did in that first round game. Carson Beck has been turnover prone. If he can be mistake-free, I think Miami has got a shot, because I do believe this pass rush is going to have their moments. This is a pass rush that is going to find chances to get home here. However, I just do not believe that Miami's going to have enough in the tank to be able to get this one done. Carson Beck may throw for 250, 2 touchdowns, but the one pick I think is going to make a lot of difference. He cannot play this game safe. So when you take a look at the spread, 9.5 is that spread, 40.5 is that over-under. Not a lot of points are expected in this game. I think you may get a little bit more points than what Vegas is predicting right now, but I do believe the Buckeyes are going to win this game and cover. I just don't believe that this is a Miami team that has got everything necessary to be able to win this game. They can keep it interesting and they can hang with them. From a talent perspective, Miami is right there with the Buckeyes. They have the 5-star talent. They have the stud freshmen. They have the really, really good players. I just do not believe that this is a Miami team that A, is going to get a mistake-free game from Carson Beck, B, get a good rushing performance from Mark Fletcher or any other back that wants to step up, is going to be hitting those 40-plus yard plays. The pass rush is going to get consistent pressure, and they're going to be able to lock down Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. I think all 5 of those things, in probably more often than not fashion, have to happen. And I just don't think that Miami is going to be up for that task. So the Buckeyes win and cover in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. I believe they will be moving on to the college football playoff semifinal. Any questions that you all have on Miami and Ohio State? I'll leave this screen up and I will answer them. Scotty, the Hurricanes can't rely on the run alone. Exactly what I just said. Carson Beck has got to be able to step up, find these receivers downfield, be able to make the plays, because if he can't, first of all, good luck doing it against this Buckeyes secondary anyway, but if he can't, that's going to end up being quite the problem here. Scotty, I do think Ohio State wins and they cover the spread. Scotty also does think Ohio State wins the game. We'll hang around here for a couple minutes. You guys got any questions about Miami and Ohio State? Drop it in the live chat. I will answer them here as my preview for the game is done. If you missed it, go back and rewatch. I implore you to do so. This is just the Buckeye team that I think is too good. And you have to trust your eyes when you get to this point in the college football season. Again, folks, my eyes have told me that Ohio State is the best team in college football, and that's why I believe that they are going to win the game. All righty. One preview down. Ohio State wins and covers in Dallas, Texas. And we will be talking about some other playoff semifinal games shortly. So, quarterfinal games shortly. Sorry. I know that's. Hey, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, okay? We're trying to get as many people into these live streams as possible. We're trying to grow the channel to be as big as possible, and that all starts with you guys. So if you're not subscribed and you're tuning into the live stream, maybe I caught you at the right moment. Make sure hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. You want to know when future live streams happen. We will be doing a reaction on January 2nd to what has happened here in the college football playoff quarterfinal. We'll be going live for that the afternoon of January 2nd. And when you go ahead and you take a look here at what, or I should say, when you take a look at some other options to be able to follow me. I don't know where I was trying to go with that thought. Go follow me on social media, guys. Twitter, Instagram, at TailgateNate29. You can keep up with everything. You can take a look at when I go live. I post probably about 4 to 5 hours before. I'm going to start doing that a heck of a lot earlier for all of you so that we can get some more people here in the stream so we can interact and build one of the better college football channels and communities here on YouTube. I think that would be a pretty good goal to have. But again, already covered one. Ohio State wins and covers against Miami. The spread currently at 9.5. And now we move on to our second quarterfinal matchup into New Year's Day. All right, now it's time to talk about probably in what my opinion is going to be the most fun to watch game in this quarterfinal round. Number 5 Oregon, number 4 Texas Tech. I think this one is just simply going to be a thriller. You got two teams that maybe have flown a little bit under the radar in some moments more than others this season, but you got two really good teams. I think two teams that can be pretty even from a talent standpoint. And apart from one blemish on each team's resume, Oregon being to Indiana, Texas Tech being to Arizona State with a backup quarterback, these two teams have been flawless this year, and I think it's going to put together a really, really good performance here in this game. Now, the obvious thing to look for in this contest is the run game for both of these teams. Both of these teams, I think, are going to be able to run the ball pretty darn well. And where that starts for Oregon is Noah Whittingham. You're also going to see just a host of other tailbacks be able to plow their way forward for this Duck team. Again, Noah Whittingham is going to be able to lead that charge ever since he's gotten to Eugene. He's been a really solid piece, that lead rusher this year. However, you do have Jordan Davison, who has kind of been that lead tailback in scoring opportunities. The freshman has been fantastic this year, 13 rushing touchdowns. Both of those guys, by the way, average 6.4 yards per carry. And then D'Air Hill, freshman, 5 touchdowns, 8.6 yards per carry. Jordan Lamar's gotten some carries here and there, and even Dante Moore has shown the ability to run the football from time to time. For Texas Tech, well, there is no secret this team can run the ball, right? You got Cameron Dickey, who has been fantastic all year long for this Texas Tech team, over 1,000 yards, going to end up breaking 1,100 here in this game, 14 touchdowns. You also got a guy by the name of Jacoby Williams. He's a good tailback in his own right. So those two guys combining for the 1-2 punch. It's not as deep of a tailback room, but it is just as effective for what Texas Tech is able to get done. However, again, these are two teams that have very balanced attacks. I think the rushing game is going to be important. That's why I bring it up first. But you look at these two teams' pass games, and Oregon, of course, has got Dante Moore at quarterback with some really talented wide receivers. Now, who knows if Evan Stewart is going to play in this game? But it seems to me that every other piece should be available in this contest. Malik Benson has been the leading receiver this year. We saw him get hurt late in the year, but he came back, had himself a pretty solid day against James Madison. Kenyon Sadiq, same thing. You also do have Jeremiah McClellan, DeCorian Moore, who has been a fantastic freshman option for them. I do not believe he played against James Madison. I actually will fact check myself there. While I do not believe that to be the case, because it's not actually, he did, but he only got one catch. That's probably why I don't remember. Expect Moore to be a much bigger focal point here in this game because he's been a go ball getter all season long. And on the other side, for Texas Tech, Baron Morton has been a really good quarterback for the Red Raiders so far this season, and he's got his fair share of weapons. I'm taking a look at Caleb Douglas. I'm taking a look at Reggie Virgil. I'm taking a look at Coy Eakin. Even their tight end in Terrence Carter has caught some really big passes and big moments for them this season. Both of these teams have got balanced offense and they've got balanced defense, especially in the trenches. Neither of these teams have given up much on the ground all season long. Now, when they have, it really hasn't even been a when they have. Indiana was able to expose the run defense a little bit for Oregon, but in the Arizona State win, oh boy, that collar, let's fix that right up. In that Arizona State win, the Sun Devils did it all through the air. Yes, with a backup quarterback, but the Texas Tech run defense just didn't have it, right? It just did not have it. Or I should say it wasn't having it, right? And by that meaning they just didn't allow much on the ground against Arizona State in their one loss this season. So the run game is going to be vital here, right? Which team is going to give a little bit, or do neither teams give? And is this going to be a game where both teams have got to try to win it through the air? Let's talk about it. X factor for Oregon, I believe, has to be Dante Moore. you just get the sense and the feeling, and this is a theme that's going to come back a little bit later on. You just get the sense and feeling that this is an Oregon team that is waiting to assert themselves, that is waiting to break out. Again, so far my bracket's still perfect, guys. I've picked them to go to the national championship game. This is an Oregon team that I just think is waiting to assert their might, is waiting to show people, hey, this is the team that we can really be. I think Oregon just hasn't been able to have that opportunity yet. This may very well be the game to where Oregon can assert themselves and push themselves forward and really show the country, hey, the Oregon Ducks are here. We are not playing around. On the other side, the X factor for Texas Tech, I think it's got to be that run defense. When you have so many weapons in this Oregon tailback room, for as deep as they are, I just think that this Texas Tech run defense has got to show up and be ready to go. If you're going to want to make Dante Moore win the ball through or win the game through the air, great. That's fantastic. Now you want to try to take that away with some of the pieces in the secondary, and Wisniewski, the former North Dakota State transfer, has been one of the Big 12's better defensive backs this season, but that's just it, right? You can't get this thought out of your mind. Most of the college football public, or I should say a good portion of the college football public, I should say, but it's all against Big 12 teams. Okay, that might not matter. Because, again, back to what I talked about with Ohio State and Miami, specifically with the Buckeyes. Trust what your eyes have seen, and my eyes have told me that Texas Tech is a really darn good football team. And I don't believe that, okay, look, maybe if they were getting some of these close wins against these Big 12 opponents, okay, that might be where you pump the brakes a little bit. And yeah, the loss to Arizona State can be taken aback a little bit, but in the rest of their games, went on the road and blew out Utah by 24 points. In the second half, that game was not close. Blew out Houston on the road. That team just beat LSU in a bowl game. Blew out Kansas. Blew out Oklahoma State. That one wasn't hard to do, but really handled BYU twice. The toughest competition they faced this year was the BYU Cougars. Played them twice, and they held them to 7 points each time. Texas Tech has manhandled their competition this year, again, apart from the one loss. And now I think they're ready to show themselves that, hey, we are not just this feel-good story out of a feel-good conference. We're here to play real football. We're here to go compete for a national championship. And I do believe that Texas Tech has got everything that they need to be able to do that. But again, this X factor is this run defense. Jacob Rodriguez and some of these big boys up front have got to be able to show themselves. Jacob Rodriguez can do a lot more, though, than stop the run. He can tackle in open space. He can deflect passes. He can force fumbles. He's forced 7 of them this year. He's got 4 interceptions on the season. That is only second on the team to a 1 Bryce Pollock in this defensive back room. And again, Wisniewski, while he hasn't picked off a pass, we know that he's got the potential to do so. The other guy high in interceptions is Roberts' running mate in the linebacker room in Ben Roberts. He's the guy that Oregon's going to have to watch out for as well. As far as providing pressure, look at where they spent the money in this transfer portal class, the defensive front, and it's paid off mightily. Romello Height, 9 sacks. Beautiful. David Bailey, 13 and a half sacks. He's been a beast. AJ Holmes has been fantastic. Lee Hunter has been sensational. That defensive front, among a couple other guys you can mix and match in there, have just been spectacular this season. Things have paid off for Texas Tech. They went and they spent the money, and they are reaping the benefits of it. This team is legit, and you can't count them out. However, I want to go back over to the side of Oregon. Remember how I said Oregon's waiting for this moment to kind of assert themselves and sort of put their proverbial foot down? I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen in this game. I kind of feel like this is an Oregon team that hasn't necessarily been waiting to show their true might, but they didn't have to do that against James Madison. That they were up 34-0 or 34-6 at halftime before you could even blink. Now, granted, did they take their foot off the gas in the second half? Yeah, they could afford to. Scoreboard doesn't show how dominant Oregon really was in that game because James Madison did cover the spread, but Oregon was sensational. They were dominant in every single facet. However, the one part that Oregon, I believe, does need to fix from that game against James Madison is they've got to clean up those turnovers, and that's why their X factor is Dante Moore. I do not believe that Dante Moore can come out here, throw 2 interceptions, and then not have Texas Tech capitalize off of that. I think this is a Tech team that is just simply too good. I think if you turn the ball over against this team, they will make you pay, and they will turn those into points on the other end. You want to know how I know? Because they've done it all year long. I think this is a very evenly played contest. I think you're going to go back and forth in trying to decide this game. So let's take a look at what the Vegas says here. 2.5 is that Oregon spread. They are the favorite in this game. 51.5 is that over under here. Again, I think this is going to be an absolutely fantastic game. I think this can be a one that goes back and forth, and you're kind of tug of warring here. But I do believe that this is an Oregon team. We'll say it once more. They've been waiting for this opportunity. Texas Tech has too. And I think they're going to show people, hey, that this team really proved themselves right this year, right? Everything that they did paid off. I don't think it's going to pay off with a trip to the college football playoff semifinal. I have got to stick with the bracket that I have picked. And even though I can go back and forth on this, I'll take Oregon to win and cover. I believe that Oregon is going to be able to find something. Again, rushing is going to be key in this game. The trenches will be brutal, and it'll be a bloodbath. I think Oregon finds a little bit more success than people think they do. I think Dante Moore has himself a very, very big day, and I think maybe not very big, but I think he has himself a pretty prolific and efficient day, and I think ultimately that is what leads Oregon to victory. I think you can neutralize the trenches pretty easily and cancel out a lot of the arguments. So when you're comparing the quarterback battle here, and I look at Dante Moore and I look at Behren Morton, I think Behren Morton's a very good quarterback with some good weapons. I think Dante Moore is just a little bit better of a quarterback with a little bit better weapons around him. So that is why I am picking Oregon to win this football game. Again, Oregon wins and covers. I think they are going to win the Orange Bowl, and they will move on to the college football playoff semifinal. They beat Tech on New Year's Day. All right. Scotty, always very active, my friend. My collar does not want to behave today, does it? I don't know how battle-tested Texas Tech is because their schedule has been easy. Yeah, I mean, meh. I'll give the Big 12 their flowers and their respect. Scotty, you, of all people, should probably know that there as well. And I'm not dogging on you, Scotty, okay? But BYU is a very, very good football team. I mean, they did not make life easy for them against Georgia Tech. Both those teams played their hearts out. They were able to come back and win that game. And now, okay, maybe you're starting to question how good BYU really is, because the 2 times they did play Texas Tech, they got slaughtered and swamped. I think that's a fair question. However, I believe that you got to trust what your eyes have seen. As I said before, your eyes have told you Texas Tech is a good football team, so I'm going to believe Texas Tech is a good football team unless they come out here and get splattered by the Ducks and they get drowned in the deep end of the pond, which I just don't think is going to happen. I think Tech keeps this game close. Oregon winning and covering does not mean I think it's going to happen by much. Oregon may win this game by 4 to 7 points. Still a cover, but I think Texas Tech keeps this one competitive and close. Again, like you, Scotty, I went back and forth on the game. I do believe Oregon, though, is going to win. However, I don't necessarily agree with the statement I can't trust either team to win. I think both these teams have very balanced attacks. In fact, I think Texas Tech the only team in the playoff field with a top 15 rush and pass offense. So they've shown that they can get it done in both aspects. The defense has been a wrecking ball this year, especially in being able to provide pressure, slow down this run game, force takeaways, and then have their offense go capitalize off of it. Both these teams are just so well balanced. It may very well come down to, okay, hey, one mistake can doom one of these teams. That just may very well what end it may be. But I do trust Oregon a little bit more, so I do think Oregon is going to be able to get that win once it is all said and done. So there you go. There's 2 down. Half of them are down. Should we just jump straight on into the third one? Yeah, we will here. We'll fuel up, though. And remind you guys to subscribe. Hey, want to be able to put the best content forward, want to see all the support from you. Maybe I'm catching when you're just joining the stream. Make sure to check and see if you're subscribed. Hit that button. Also follow me on social media at Tailgate829, Twitter, Instagram, and wherever else you want to peruse through the socials. All right, we will move on to the third quarterfinal game. And this one, I think, is where things look. Oregon, Texas Tech could be the quarterfinal game of the season, right? However, this one is, I think, where things really start to ramp up in intensity and interest factor. The Rose Bowl, historic venue, and we're going to get a historic program coming in to face the darling of the college football season. 4 p.m., as is tradition with the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day, Alabama and Indiana. Now, Indiana's not been to the Rose Bowl in a very, very long time. We all remember what happened the last time Alabama was at this venue, circa 2024. Against the Michigan Wolverines, 2023, 2024, however it is you want to view that. Basically 2 seasons ago, the last time Alabama made the college football playoff, again, because they didn't make the 12-team field last year. So this is an Alabama team that had to fight and claw from the depths of that first quarter against Oklahoma. They go score, I believe, 31 unanswered points. They post a 34-24 win against the Oklahoma Sooners, and things are feeling good. I actually don't believe it was 31 unanswered points. I actually probably think I'm completely wrong in that. 27 unanswered points. There we go. 27 unanswered points from Bama to come back and be able to win that game. This one gets interesting really, really fast when you start to talk about. In fact, I want to dive into the X factors right away because for Indiana, I don't really know that there is a true X factor in this game other than, Bama's been susceptible and Bama's been prone to a couple areas of mistakes throughout the season. And this has just been an Indiana team that has been consistent in what they have done this year. In order to win this game, Indiana's got to be able to, I think, generate some pressure. That's their X factor to me. I think they got to throw Ty Simpson off of his rhythm, be able to get him maybe to make some back foot throws, things of that nature. We'll talk more about that. But then Indiana's also won the third downs every single game all season long. They even did it in the Big Ten championship game. They were amazing on third down. They're the best third down offense. They're, I believe, even one of, if not the best third down defense outside of Texas A&M. Well, looky what I got the X factor to be here for the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's third down because there have been points where Bama has really struggled. Bama, they can afford some pressure here and there. They can afford some of these big plays that Indiana can generate because I think Alabama can generate them too. What I don't think they can afford is to get behind the sticks every single play and just not be that successful on third down. I think that's where you start to see Alabama fold, and that's where you start to see the detriment of this team come forward, right? They're just not going to have a lot of success if they're not having success on the money downs. And weirdly enough, you would not think this way with traditional college football thinking if you've been living under a rock and you woke up today and you saw this matchup on your screen, take away the seedings, the lines, everything. You might think Alabama in this game is favored by 15, 16, 20. Nope. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Indiana's the touchdown favorite here. But people are doubting this Alabama team. And a word of caution to those of you that are doing so. Don't. Quite simply, don't do it. Not only because of the pedigree of this program as a whole, but if this team can find that energy that they played with in the final, I'll say 40 minutes against the Oklahoma Sooners, maybe 35, depending on how optimistic or pessimistic you may be. At the very least, that second half, if they can take the energy and the drive that they played with in the closing half of that game against Oklahoma, and they transition it into this game, I'm going to tell you right now, they're probably going to win. And it's not because Indiana is a bad football team. It's because when that Alabama is on the field, that's an Alabama that I think can compete with a lot of the top teams in the country, of which Indiana is this year. But Indiana, again, they just got to continue to do the things that they have done all season long. They've got to provide pressure. And you're looking at two guys on screen there that have been amazing at providing pressure all season long, specifically to the quarterback, which I think is the biggest key when you talk about the word pressure for this Indiana team. That's a linebacker, Elijah Hardy, up top, and down below him, it is Tyreek Tucker. Now, one thing I do have to mention, and I cannot overstate how big this loss is. Do not believe Stephen Daly is going to play in this game. I just don't think that is going to happen. And when you lose a guy as important as Stephen Daly or Stephen Daly, my apologies for mispronunciations in any sense, but Daly was a wrecking ball for this defensive line. Sure, only 5.5 sacks compared to some of his linebacker counterparts like Hardy as well as Isaiah Jones. But he is invaluable to what this defensive line wants to do on a game-in, game-out basis. He is a wrecking ball. And like I just talked about Indiana, or like I talked about way earlier in this stream, for those of you watching the clip, talked about in my Ohio State and Miami preview, this is an Indiana team that's going to run stunts and switches. And this is an Alabama offensive line that has been in question all season long. And for good reason. It's because they haven't necessarily been that great. So when I take a look at this matchup here, and I just simply view what my eyes have told me, right? When Alabama is on, and that's probably the big theme for this stream as a whole, right? What have your eyes told you? Well, my eyes have told me that Alabama can't really run the ball. And that's got to be something that's got to change here. I just don't think that Alabama can win this game without some sort of factor from their ground game. Now, they were able to do that against Oklahoma. They only got 28 yards rushing, but Oklahoma sort of laid down and took it. Alabama played with some great momentum defensively. I just don't think you can replicate that recipe against a team as good as Indiana, especially for what this team brings in terms of defensive intensity. This team defensively is really, really good. They are a really good, sound defensive team, right? And they do all of the little things well. Well, I have yet to talk about this Indiana offense because those of you that may be picking Bama, this might sway you. Fernando Mendoza is your Heisman Trophy winner. He is going to have Elijah Surratt, who had himself not necessarily a prolific day, but a pretty good day in the Big Ten Championship. Ended up catching the only touchdown pass that mattered on the scoreboard, and Indiana was able to win the game because of that just little fade route that he threw up top to him, and he won the battle. Well, Omar Cooper's another guy that can do that, and he's going to be back fully healthy. Not to mention what Indiana has got in terms of a tailback room. They've got some dudes back there. Roman Hemby is really good. Kalon Black is really good. And then you have Kobe Martin, who's going to get in there every now and again, and he's going to get his touches and be prolific with them. So I think this is an Indiana offense that they can hit those big plays. Oh, also on top of that, right? They've been able to hit some really, really big plays with Charlie Becker. Of course, they were able to seal the game against Ohio State with a route to Charlie Becker, or at very least, well, I mean, pretty much seal the game. You gave Julian Sayin Ohio State basically no time to be able to work with. You can't forget about EJ Williams. You can't forget about some of these tight ends, but a team that likes to feature their wide receivers a lot more than their tailbacks and their tight ends. A lot more. And it's because they got a really good group of them, Cooper, Surratt, and Becker, respectively. In fact, Omar Cooper coming back here, for as good as Elijah Surratt is, Cooper's the leading receiver on the team this year. So getting him back is going to be huge, and I think it's an invaluable piece to what is going to happen here in this game. So let's take a look at what Vegas thinks. It's a 7-point spread in favor of Indiana. Yes, they are the touchdown favorite against the big, bad Alabama Crimson Tide. I think Alabama covers, but I think Indiana wins the football game. I know not a lot of people are picking Alabama to win this contest. I think for good reason. There still is that level of skepticism when you take a look at this team. There still is that level of distrust and thinking, oh, I don't necessarily trust the offensive line. Which version of Ty Simpson is going to show up? Which version of this Bama defense is going to show up? I think all very fair questions, but at the end of the day, I just believe that, look, Alabama's going to show up here. I also believe that Indiana's a really good football team, and I think that defensive pressure is going to be a little bit too much. I don't think Alabama's going to have the success they need on the money downs, on the third downs, and Fernando Mendoza is about as consistent a quarterback as you could have asked for in college football this year. All those things are going to play dividends, and while Bama does cover, I'll take Indiana to get the win in the Rose Bowl. Let's say all the letters in the word, Nate. Indiana gets the win in the Rose Bowl, and I think you're going to see the Hoosiers move on to the college football playoff semifinal. Hit the microphone there at the end. Sorry about that. Scotty, Indiana can't let the moment of this game get to them mentally. I think Indiana's going to be ready for it because Kurt Cignetti's a psycho, and I think he lives and dreams for this moment. Plus, something I didn't talk about in that little preview because I just didn't think it warranted mention, but I will mention it here talking to all of you fine people. Indiana has been in this moment before. They were in the college football playoff last season. Granted, they got beat down by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, a team that went on to be your national runner-up last season, but Indiana is just going to be ready. I have no doubt about that in my mind. I think Indiana's going to be ready. I think they're going to be rearing and ready to go. I believe this is a program that after what happened last year, they've learned from their mistakes. And this is a better football team that they have put on the field. Not only is it a better team, it is a more well-tested team. It, in, I think, some different ways, is a better coached team. Again, in some different ways. That one may get a little bit of pushback. But I think this is an Indiana team that's going to be ready to go. I don't think they're going to feel like this moment is too big for them. I think they can come out and play with their hair on fire, which I think is what happens. Thanks, Hannah. Nice sweater. I know, right? Hey, like I said at the beginning, when you are a fan of an NFL team that doesn't win much and it's Victory Monday, you got to rep your team, man. So that's exactly why I am wearing what I'm wearing today. Yes, again, I talked about Omar Cooper. Take Indiana to win because they're a more consistent team. Trust Cignetti more than DeBoer. I still trust Kalen DeBoer, but I don't trust the team that he has fielded, if that makes sense. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to make the right call. I think Kane Womack is going to make the right calls defensively. He could be the unsung hero in this game, by the way. I think if Kane Womack puts together a good defensive plan, he could be the guy to maybe not get all the credit, but he can be a guy to get a lot of the credit for why Alabama comes out on top in this game. But yes, I do believe that it will be the Indiana Hoosiers here walking away with a trip to the college football playoff semifinal. Alrighty. We got one left. Just one left. And it is going to be a rematch of a game that we saw in the regular season. But again, guys, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow me on social media. Because 2026, I know 2025 was a very wonky year for the Tailgate Nate College Football YouTube channel. But 2026, man, there are going to be some changes. There are going to be some things that go down. We're going to do more live stream stuff like this. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be fantastic. So you want to be sure that you tune into everything going on in 2026. And how do you be ready for it? Well, you hit the subscribe button now. You follow me on social media now. You ring the bell now. So that way you're notified of everything that comes in the future. All right, final college football playoff quarterfinal after some water. All right. Excuse me. And the final college football playoff quarterfinal that will be gracing your TV screens this New Year's weekend or New Year's midweek, however it is you want to determine that, is the Sugar Bowl. Okay, we're going to New Orleans for a game that we saw in the regular season. Ole Miss is going to be taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, again, as I just spoke on, we did see this game once, and Ole Miss, I think for a lot of the game really felt like they should have had it. But what Georgia did is, what Georgia has done in the early part of the season. They did it against Tennessee. They had to do it against Ole Miss. And this really wasn't even the early part of the season. This is about midway through the year, seventh game for each of these two teams. Georgia found themselves down 35-26 at the start of that fourth quarter. And then they went ahead to score 17 unanswered points and just about win the football game. It was able to stop Ole Miss on downs there at their own 35-yard line. Defense really stepped up, ramped up, things of that nature. And that's really been the story of the season for Georgia, you feel like. Fans around Athens have felt like this is a defense that has just been in a different mode ever since that second half against Ole Miss, and they would be correct. They're able to get more pressure. I think their secondary is finding these better matchups, and they're just playing with some better intensity, that Georgia intensity that we are all used to, and it's exactly why it's my X factor for this Georgia team. Look, man, quite simply put, they keep up the intensity that they have played with for the most part in the second half of the season. Now, you did need some things to happen there. You did need, after that Ole Miss game, after the bye week, did need to scrape by Florida, okay? Things got scary in moments against Georgia Tech, but then you handled Alabama in the SEC championship game, and now you're looking forward to this rematch against Ole Miss. But Ole Miss has got an X factor of their own, and like it has been for some of these teams I previewed in the quarterfinal, it's a player, and it's the quarterback Trinidad Chambliss. Every time that I talk about Ole Miss, I say this phrase. Coming into the season, it was all Austin Simmons this, Austin Simmons that. What is Austin Simmons going to be? And I think compared to what we've seen in college football in recent memory, rightfully so, you throw the D2 transfer, Trinidad Chambliss, sort of on the back burner. Well, all of a sudden, Austin Simmons starts to not play well. Trinidad Chambliss gets thrown in, and he's revitalized the explosiveness in this offense that, well, we were used to seeing out of Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss teams. Only difference is this hasn't been a Lane Kiffin-led Ole Miss team. At least it wasn't in the college football playoff game because he's off to LSU. Pete Golding took over. He pushed all the right buttons, and Ole Miss dominated Tulane in that college football playoff first-round game. First time these two teams met, here is what Trinidad Chambliss did to this Georgia defense. 19 of 36, 263 yards, 1 touchdown, also 42 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Trinidad Chambliss, you look across the rest of the quarterbacks available in the college football playoff, he might be the most difficult to game plan for, because not only does he got an arm, and he's got some really good wide receivers to be able to play with out there. Harrison Wallace, the Penn State transfer, he's been the leading receiver this year. Deuce Alexander is great. Deshaun Stribling is great. Daquan Wright, the tight end, has been good. Caden Lee's got over 500 yards. Even Winston Watkins, when you get him involved in the offense, he's got that potential to make an impact and have a say in what goes on during this football game. Not only that, man, Kawan Lacey at the tailback position has been phenomenal this year. Over 1,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, and Trinidad Chambliss is not a bad compliment to the ground game. 506 yards and 8, just misread the number entirely, 8 rushing touchdowns for Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss is a very hard quarterback to prepare for. This is a very hard offense to prepare for, but you started to see the stats and everything sway in the second half of that game. Now, ever since that point, Trinidad Chambliss and this Ole Miss team have still been really, really good. In fact, they have not lost a game since. That's how good they have been. And when you look at the margin of victory, yeah, again, things got a little bit hairy against Oklahoma the following week, but they were able to get that road win. Things got a little bit hairy in moments against Florida. They were able to pull away and get that win, and Mississippi State did a pretty decent job of being able to keep up, but still no match for the Ole Miss Rebels. But I want to focus on the other quarterback here, because for as important as Trinidad Chambliss is going to be, what about Carson Beck? Carson Beck is a guy that when I take a look here, or sorry, not Carson Beck. Oh my goodness, brain fart moment. Sorry, bleh, throw that out. Gunnar Stockton. Carson Beck is obviously at Miami now. Gunnar Stockton. When I take a look at Gunnar Stockton on the other side here, that blooper is going to live in infamy. I know that. But focusing on the other quarterback with Gunnar Stockton, he has not been super flashy. He has not been anything super noteworthy. Just 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 picks, though. Not a bad touchdown to interception ratio there. And Georgia has revitalized this ground game with Nate Frazier and the likes of Chauncey Bowens, 6 rushing touchdowns each. Gunnar Stockton's been able to provide the lift on the ground, much like Trinidad Chambliss has with the Ole Miss Rebels, but also he's just done everything that this Georgia program has needed him to do to win these games. He's done everything that you can ask of him, and albeit, while Trinidad Chambliss is probably the better quarterback in this matchup, I still put a lot of faith and trust into Gunnar Stockton. I had a lot of questions about him. If you remember back in my prediction video for Georgia this season, I had a lot of questions about what Gunnar Stockton was capable of. Well, again, while he has not been flashy, he's been everything that Georgia needs him to be, and probably a little bit more at times. I don't know that you need him to have a big explosive day to be able to win this game, but I do believe that he's just got to continue to stay on that path. He's got to continue to do everything that Georgia has asked him to do. That has not been a problem for him, period. That just has not been a problem. So I do believe that this is a Georgia team that is still going to get a pretty darn good performance from Gunnar Stockton, but where they need a good performance really is from their defense. And they've got to be able to throw Trinidad Chambliss into a lockbox, into a straitjacket. They've got to ramp up this pressure. Now, game against Ole Miss, 0 sacks, 0 tackles for loss, just no pressure. Albeit, they were able to have some moments against Trinidad Chambliss in that first game. But since that performance, here's what the Georgia defensive front has been able to do. Still did not really pick it up there against Florida, but against Mississippi State, right? 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Okay, you're starting to see it really pick up after just not doing much of anything against Florida at all. And then against Texas, 3 sacks and 7 tackles for loss. Don't even have to worry about what they did against Charlotte. It doesn't matter. But then against Georgia Tech, only 1 sack, but you still force those 7 tackles for loss. SEC championship game against the Alabama Crimson Tide, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. So they're able to provide that pressure. They're able to provide that intensity that we're used to seeing out of this Georgia defense. And Georgia's just been a tough bug to kill, right? You can't get them to go away. I think Ole Miss has got everything they need to be able to avenge their regular season loss. But Trinidad Chambliss is going to need some help from this Ole Miss defense. It's the one side of the football I have not talked about yet because Georgia scored on every possession that did not run out the clock in that game back on, what was it? I don't know why I'm blanking on the day. October 18th, I believe. Yes, October 18th. Georgia scored on every possession to where they weren't kneeling the football down to run out the clock, get it into halftime. So Ole Miss defense has got to be able to find a way to step up here. They've got to find a way to make some plays. They've got to find a way to generate some pressure of their own. And even though Trinidad Chambliss is their X factor for me, you get a good performance from him, of which he is very rarely disappointed this year. You're going to keep yourself within arm's reach to be able to win this game. In fact, you may even be leading Georgia, much like you were in the game again on October 18th. I'll say the date now because I remember it and I have it in my head. But this Ole Miss defense, there's been moments where it's been solid. There's been moments where it's been fine. But the 27 sacks this year, I think you got to see a little bit of uptick in your usual production, and I think we all know where it's going to come from. Uman Mielen, right? Prince Will, Uman Mielen. He's got to be the guy to be able to provide pressure, get in the face of Carson Beck. But I also think this secondary is going to have their work cut out for them as well. I think it's an underrated group of Georgia wide receivers. Really an underrated group of Georgia pass catchers. I know they have not been that productive this year, but Colby Young, he's got good hands. Same thing with Dylan Bell, London Humphreys, Noah Thomas. All these guys you've seen not be prolific, but have been mixed into the offense here and there. Well, you want to know who has every single week? Zachariah Branch. And he is another one of those X-factor players here in this game. Not only with what he can do as a wide receiver, but in special teams. He's that go-to target for Gunnar Stockton, but you may also be seeing him returning punts, returning kickoffs. He gets one of those babies to the house. That's a problem for Ole Miss. That's something I just don't think that they can afford, right? Previous game, Gunnar Stockton. I keep talking a lot about the previous game, but Gunnar Stockton was elite. 26 of 31, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, and added 1 on the ground. I don't know if we get a performance quite that good in this game, but let's take a look at what Vegas thinks before I make my prediction. So 6.5 is that Georgia line, again, right now, as of putting this video out, and 55.5 is that over-under. We got darn near 80 in the regular season. I think you're going to see a little bit more defensive competition, especially from this Georgia team, but I do believe that we are also going to see a repeat result of what we got in the regular season. And not necessarily in how the game plays out, but I do think Georgia is going to win this game, although Ole Miss covers. I think Georgia wins it by about 4, 5, or 6. I believe that this is the Georgia team that's got everything that they need to be able to win it, and they're playing their best brand of football right now. Gunnar Stockton, I think, is going to continue to do everything that has been asked of him to do, and probably a little bit more. Here in this game, there are some more holes and things that you can exploit with this Ole Miss defense, but I just can't get past the physicality and the intensity level that Georgia has played with lately, maybe aside from the Georgia Tech game when the offense was not rolling, but the defense was. Defensively is what I'm talking about. This is a defense that's going to be able to generate some pressure. I think they have to get Trinidad Chambliss on the ground on multiple occasions to be able to feel really good about coming away with the win. And bit of a mystery on who controls this game here, but I think the Georgia intensity sets the tone. And I think that helps their offense set the pace. And I think it's why Georgia's going to walk away with a win in the Sugar Bowl between these two SEC opponents. So I do believe that Georgia is going to walk away as your victor here, and they will move on to the college football playoff semifinal round, and which should be a good game no matter who they play, Miami, Ohio State. But I do think Georgia is going to end up winning this game. Ole Miss covers, but this dog defense, I think, stands up and stands tall, and that's the reason why Georgia walks away with a quarterfinal victory. All right, we move to Ole Miss has no pressure going into the game. Not a lot of people will pick Ole Miss with a newer head coach. I think, something I probably should have mentioned too, but something they also can embody is the whole Lane Kiffin thing. Tulane talked about it in my review. Again, go back and watch that stream if you have to before that clip gets up. But Tulane had their moments against Ole Miss, and they just missed a lot of opportunities. It's another reason why this is an Ole Miss defense that has just got to stand up and play a better brand of football. This Georgia offense is not going to knock your socks off by any means, but they're efficient. Gunnar Stockton, again, has got everything he needs around him, and within himself, he's provided it all season long. I don't know. I go with Georgia because they have a more experienced coach in this situation. I mean, for as good a job as I think Pete Golding is going to do, we'll get to that when I talk about coaching hires at the end of all this college football playoff fiasco. Kirby Smart's built for this moment. He's been here before. He knows what he's doing. And look, Ole Miss did not skip a beat in that game against Tulane. I don't know that they're going to skip much of a beat in this game either. but I do believe that Georgia, just on sheer defensive intensity alone, probably going to have enough to win this game, on top of the fact I think they get a good performance from Gunnar Stockton and their offense. Okay, college football playoff quarterfinal previews are done. They're over. Predictions are done. So those clips will be up later on. Now we get a chance to stretch out a little bit as we've hit the hour mark. Hey, don't worry. We still got one more short little topic to talk about. I hopefully will not discuss this for too much longer because I really don't have much to say on the hire itself in the situation, but obviously you see the title wherever you can see it. You know where I'm about to go next. Gotta break away from the college football playoff at some point, right? Somehow? Some way? Okay. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you're following me on social media for the final time that I will tell. Well, probably not the final time. I'll tell you that, actually. Whoopsie. Okay. Let's go ahead. Oh, whoops. Went one too far. Let's move on here. So Kyle Whittingham is the guy that is... Why did I start that like that? All right. Redo. Restart. Kyle Whittingham has been hired at the University of Michigan to be the next head football coach. Amongst all the turmoil, amongst everything that has been going on, and when people felt like this Michigan coaching search was dead and they were not going to get anybody of good value, they pull this guy. And I love this hire for the Michigan Wolverine football program. I really do. Got him on a 5-year, $8.2 million per year deal. That's what it equates to, although I know the contract is structured a little differently. I think he's getting $8 million in his first year and is getting some sort of deferrals and dividends and so on and so forth. But he's coming over from 21 seasons at the helm of this Utah program, 177 and 88. That equates to roughly he won about 2 out of every 3 games that he played. And he's seen a lot more success as of late than not, right? Go back to, I think, 2009 it was. Utah went undefeated. They were an undefeated team. And then they moved into the power conference standpoint. He's put together some really good seasons in the Pac-12. He's won conference championships. He's put together 2 really good seasons in the Big 12 since Utah has been, 2 really good seasons in the Big 12 since Utah has been a member, including this year, in which, hey, if it was a 16-team field, Utah probably makes the college football playoff. And he comes into a university with turmoil upon turmoil upon turmoil. Michigan has had a lot of issues within their football program. The whole Jim Harbaugh, Connor Stallions thing that, I thought was put behind us, to some people not, but now obviously everything that's happened with Sharon Moore and that whole fiasco that was going on there. This is a monumentally great hire. And what I always thought would happen with Kyle Whittingham after Utah is he would retire. I didn't think he would take on another coaching job. Well, at least I thought that way about 4 months ago. As the season has gone along here and you've started to read the writing on the walls, now nobody would have guessed that he would have ended up as Michigan, because I don't think we all thought Sharon Moore would go psycho mode and wind himself up in prison. But what I can tell you is that as the season has gone along, I've gotten the feeling, I've not been told anything, just putting that out there. I've just gotten the feeling that Whittingham, you probably knew he was going to step down. In fact, his name is even misspelled on here. So I'm going to fix that really quickly. Which is something that I can do with the power of look at that. Beautiful. Great. All right, well, I'm actually going to end up restarting this for the thing, so I'll keep it short and brief, though, because I got to have the name spelled right. Boy, that's a mistake, right? Okay, so apologies if I'm saying some of the same stuff, but that's just what's going to happen. So Kyle Whittingham has been hired on to be the coach at the University of Michigan. 5-year, $8.2 million deal is what it equates out to, although I think he's making $8 million in his first year and getting some deferrals and making more money as the contract goes on, so and so forth, was won about 2 out of every 3 games that he played at the University of Utah, but started to see more success as of late, right? An undefeated season in 2009, won Pac-12 conference championships, put together a pair of really good seasons as a member of the Big 12, and now he comes over to a Michigan program that was just in a lot of turmoil. So nobody thought that Sharon Moore was going to do what he did, right? However, with the whole investigation thing, makes sense. And I mean, to add that on top of the sign stealing thing with Harbaugh and Connor Stallions, and just the whole issue of show cause bans and questioning of leadership and culture, Kyle Whittingham is going to come in and he's just going to fix all of it. I fully believe that this is the guy. Look at the culture he built at Utah. It was fantastic. That team rallied around each other, and even when the moments were not great. 2024, he had quarterback problems. Utah missed a bowl game. Look at the way they rebounded. Amazing season this year. The playoff was expanded. They probably would have been a team that made a 16-team bracket. They were a fringe playoff contender in their own right anyway this season. Maybe if a couple games go their way, we might be talking about Utah as a team that's in the college football playoff. But Kyle Whittingham has moved on from Utah. So he stepped down, did not retire, notably. And again, I've not been told anything. I was not told anything about Kyle Whittingham. My sources are not that good. But what I can tell you is as the season has gone along, I started to feel like it was more and more believable that Kyle Whittingham would take another job. Now, the reason I say that is 4 months ago, well, 5 months ago at this point, back in August, I thought that he was going to retire at the end of this season and he was going to be done. Hang it up. That's it. Utah was the last job. He's been there forever. Why would he go anywhere else? Well, he takes this job at the University of Michigan, and I don't think anybody could have predicted that Michigan was going to end up being the spot that he landed at, mainly because nobody, again, expected Sharon Moore to wind himself up in prison after getting fired because of having an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. Nobody thought that that was going to happen. And however, I can tell you that I think the prospect of Whittingham taking another job just got better and better and better as the season went along. And I think people still read into the fact, I did at first too, when Whittingham announced, all right, that's it. This was my last season at Utah. I'm hanging it up. But he didn't say he was hanging it up now, did he? He said this was my last season at Utah. Well, he's taken the job here at Michigan in something that he has called his final challenge. He's going to chase a national championship at Michigan. Not that he wasn't already at Utah. Some of those Utes teams, especially the one that made the Rose Bowl back in 2021, 2022, Kyle Whittingham has put Utah in a position to go compete at the very highest level. Well, now he's in a program that was running basically the same style of football that he was at Utah. Hard-nosed, physical, grinded-out style team. You take a look at the numbers, especially in terms of physicality. You're looking at rushing yards and sack yardage and everything of that nature on what he has run the Utah program as versus what Michigan has been the last 21 years. The numbers are virtually similar. So he's jumping into a program that is pretty much the blueprint of what you want your head coach to be. He's coached a team the way that Michigan has been as a program forever. And that's just your classic Big Ten football team. Hard-nosed, physical, run the ball. They're going to play really, really good brand of defense, and they're not going to quit. They're not going to give up. Neither is a Kyle Whittingham team. And we all know what Kyle Whittingham defenses are capable of. They'll punch you in the mouth, and before you even get back up, they'll punch you in the face again. So I think he landed himself inside a really good situation, probably going to end up taking some coordinators with him. In fact, I believe his offensive coordinator is already going with him, which probably is going to be a massive step up from what Michigan had in the past under Sharon Moore and any of that offensive leadership. Kyle Whittingham is just a better head coach. And we were already starting to question, okay, what's this Michigan program going to look like if Sharon Moore stays in power? Obviously, things happen the way they happen, and we don't have to think about that. We have to think about what Kyle Whittingham can be at the helm of this program. He can go win a national championship. At the very least, he can be in contention for Big Ten titles, but he's probably going to wind up making the college football playoff, and Michigan's probably going to be right back up to the top of the radar because this is a program that has everything that Kyle Whittingham wants, on top of the fact that there is more NIL, there are more resources, there is a bigger fan base that I think is just going to be better for Whittingham to thrive. And now, here's the big question when you talk about Kyle Whittingham. What players are going to follow over, especially on the defensive side? But the most important question that everybody has been watching, even when Sharon Moore was still the head coach of this football team, Bryce Underwood. There are little rumors and rumblings. Maybe Bryce Underwood's going to be a guy that hits the transfer portal. Maybe he doesn't. In fact, Bryce Underwood, they've kept that thing pretty under wraps. It would not surprise me if Bryce Underwood was one of these surprise names that all of a sudden just seems like he's going to throw his name into the transfer portal when it opens on January 2nd after the quarterfinal round of the college football playoff. So now the question becomes, okay, Devin Dampier had himself a pretty good year at Utah. Does he make his way over to Michigan? And does he want to try to battle Bryce Underwood for the quarterback spot? Or does Bryce Underwood recognize, ooh, hey, this Dampier guy is coming over. Let me go somewhere I don't have to compete for a job, or at least very well know I'm going to play. I think Bryce Underwood, under the coaching of Kyle Whittingham, might still win that quarterback battle over Devin Dampier, but there's never that guarantee. So maybe he goes somewhere where there's that guarantee. Maybe he commits back to LSU and joins Lane Kiffin. Who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen with Bryce Underwood from this point forward? All I do know is this, and we have to go based off of what we know in this facet. Michigan made a darn good hire. For their situation, now I still don't know, again, some of the more inner workings behind the scenes, right? Like Ward Manuel has been under a lot of scrutiny, so we'll see what happens there, but this coaching hire was done under him, and I would find it hard to believe that the university moves on from him now that they have hired this head football coach, and Whittingham is just going to turn this ship right around. The culture is going to be different, and Michigan's going to get back to the highest level of college football. They will be a national championship contender because I think Whittingham is that good of a head coach. I think the environment and the situation is right for him. And yes, there still is going to be some sort of building process. I'm thinking more in terms of the culture here. The talent is quite already prevalent, especially on the defensive side of the ball with this roster. If he gets a lot of guys to stay, I don't think he's going to have to do much in terms of pulling in through the transfer portal, although I think we probably could see him be fairly active in that realm as well. This is a slam dunk, home run, A-plus hire, especially considering the situation that this program was in. Kyle Whittingham is considered by many to be a top 5 coach in the country. I consider him, at very least, to be top 10. So you get a top 10, at the very least, if not top 5, coach in the country to come over into a situation where, hey, he's already coached hard-nosed physical football teams before. That's what we are at Michigan. That's what we like. Great. Bring him on. I'm really excited for this hire. I do believe that this is going to be a really fruitful place. Now, we'll see what happens in these next 5 years because Whittingham is already on the older side of a head coach. This is definitely his final job and his final spot. We'll see how much success he can have with it. But this is a home run hire for Michigan. I love this in all of its entirety. And we'll see what Kyle Whittingham can do at the helm of the Maize and Blue. All right, there we go. A lot better that I got the spelling fixed on that. Again, we're still trying to work out the kinks of things, but that is a me bad. Yeah, Scotty, just what I said. Believe this is the last stop has a head coach. Utah OC is coming. Yep, I said that already. Timing what happened to the previous. Yeah, Dampier follows his OC and former head coach. Also good point. The most interesting conversation you can have right now in terms of this football program is what happens with Bryce Underwood. That is the biggest conversation that I think you got to have with Michigan right now. Because if Bryce Underwood is going to be a guy that ends up sticking around and Devin Dampier transfers in, or then maybe Devin Dampier doesn't transfer in at all. Maybe he's got to find a new home, which I think would be hard for him to do, considering, again, his offensive coordinator and former head coach are still going. He already followed his former head coach over to Utah. Does he do it again? And does he transfer again? I think that's the biggest thing to watch there. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, no question about it. This is a slam dunk, home run hire. The coaching carousel has been wild, but I think everybody in the back of their mind kind of knew Kyle Whittingham was there, but didn't really consider him to be taking another job. Well, I think as time went on, that just got more and more so to be the case. And absolutely the case right here. I love this decision. I love this hire. And I think Kyle Whittingham is going to be a great fit for the University of Michigan football program. I really do. I really do. So that's the show today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, follow me on social medias, Twitter, Instagram, anything else that you would like to end up following me on. Again, all of the social medias that happen to oh my goodness, I cannot talk. Just all the social medias that happen to tickle your fancy. Go ahead, follow me. I may not have an account. I may have an account. If I have an account, follow me. Twitter, Instagram, even Snapchat, guys. Even Snapchat. Don't care. You can add me there. That's fine. It's totally fine. I don't really use it that much, but it's fine. Hey, thank you all so much for watching. We'll cut clips of this. We'll put stuff out. We'll push things forward, and we'll get ready for the college football playoff quarterfinal. We'll be back with instant reaction again. We will be here to talk about the quarterfinal round on January 2nd. So January 2nd, don't have a time laid out yet, but January 2nd, mark your calendars. We will be back for another Tailgate Nate live stream. Until then, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See all of you guys in the next stream. Thank you all so much for your support, and have a fantastic New Year's. Goodbye. Next time we'll talk, we'll be in 2026.